Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Arlene Diamco, the multidimensional MD. Thank you so much for joining me. My mission is to help bring the intuitive spirit back to health in practical and tangible ways so that you can experience more peace, love, and joy in your everyday life and access deeper healing. Today, I'm going to be talking about solar weather, solar flares, and what that has to do with our health. I started thinking about this, on and off over the years because I'd been hearing about, oh, solar flares. Oh, maybe that's what's causing things to go awry. And last week, I just felt like a shift in me, both energetically and then also in my emotions and my mental state. But nothing had happened in terms of like change in diet, change in my activity, change in any my life situation or what had been going on to have stirred on that change. And I was wondering, I was like, what was it? Can I? Is it just all chalked up to this perimenopausal period? Which that was a very viable thing. But then I heard that there was there was a solar flare and a really intense one. And I started to look into that more. And I wanted to be able to talk about it because if you have been feeling a bit off or feeling that intermittently, and you can't quite pinpoint what it's from, then maybe consider following the space weather and seeing if that could be contributing to it. So what exactly is solar weather and space weather in general? There are all different kinds of energies in frequencies in our solar system and outside our system, including galactic frequencies. But solar flares are, and this is from the European Space Agency. I'm going to say exactly what they said. A solar flare is a tremendous explosion on the sun that happens when energy stored in twisted magnetic fields, usually above sunspots, is suddenly released. In a matter of just a few minutes, they heat material to many millions of degrees and produce a burst of radiation across the electromagnetic spectrum, from radio waves to X rays and gamma rays. So, just that alone is very interesting because we are electromagnetic beings. And for many of you that come to see me, many of us are very sensitive and can pick up on things that are difficult to measure. Now, the solar weather is something that they can measure and they can see and track. And so, if they can measure it, then surely those of us that are very sensitive can feel it, and those of us that are not as sensitive can still have the effects of it. So even if you don't feel it like consciously, it can still affect your physical body, your mental emotional state. They measure these solar flares, they class them with letters like A, B, C, M, and then X is the biggest one. And then they put a number by it. So I just want to show you on this screen. This I just saw put this up from Meteor. This is an app on solar weather and all kinds of space weather. And let me get this bigger for you because here it showed the prediction of the forecast for November, and it shows you what's been going on in the last couple of weeks. And then you can see there that see all those reds in last week, and there was one that was in the X that was last Tuesday, and that was exactly the day that I was feeling kind of strange. I was like, I don't know what's going on with me. I feel kind of weird. It just like I didn't even have a word to describe it because I was like maybe kind of down, but I was like, I didn't have any reason that could have stirred it at that very moment. And so I was wondering what that was. And I looked and that there is this purple here between these dark, the reds that was like an X, and that hardly ever happens. And so that's really fascinating to me. There are other kinds of solar intensities. There's also what's called coronal mass ejections. That's when this is also from the European Space Agency. While a flare is a burst of radiation, a coronal mass ejection, or CME, flings out large amounts of solar material in the form of huge bubbles of charged particles. which is plasma, threaded with magnetic field lines. And solar flares and coronal mass ejections can occur together. Um, so, I mean, we all know the sun has a lot of energy and it is very hot. So you can imagine the intensity of a storm. It is so hot that it forms plasma. What is plasma? Plasma is considered the fourth state of matter. This is from MIT, Plasma Science and Fusion Center. A superheated gas so energetic its electrons have been stripped away. And recently, this is so interesting. I'm going to show here. This is from Forbes magazine, and this was November 12th. Earth has sudden ground level event in these. So basically, this coronal mass ejection had. And these solar flares were so intense that they had actually hit the ground. Usually it just interacts with the atmosphere and the field above the Earth, but particles had hit the ground. I mean, that rarely ever happens. It was I forget, it was like in the tens, less than 100, much less than 100. I think it was a few like in the 30s or something that it had happened that they'd been able to measure before. And so that's really interesting to me that we're having these events that are quite rare. And there's a reason for it, is because that the sun is actually in this state of heightened activity. The sun has an 11-year cycle, and where it switches its own poles. And in this time, in that 11-year cycle, we have a heightened time of solar activity. And today is also one of those days. There are many other vibrations, frequencies coming in from space, including cosmic rays and galactic rays. And these kinds of radiation, electromagnetic activity also affects, of course, our Earth's field. And so it will create this geomagnetic activity as well. So this is the interaction between what's going on with the sun and the Earth, and now to us beings here. So what are the cardiovascular and pulmonary effects? Before they used to say that there weren't that these kinds of the solar weather didn't really affect us as much. It was more important for satellites and astronauts and radio waves, technology, solar, power sources, and GPS. So those could go wonky. And they said, oh, but it doesn't affect you as much unless you're in an airplane or higher up in the atmosphere. But now we know that these solar intensities can actually affect our health. So cardiovascularly, they can decrease our heart rate variability. We like to have a nice heart rate variability that shows that we are alive and flowing through life. So it has a decreased HRV. For those of you that track it with devices or rings, and it would be a very interesting experiment for yourself to like pull up a solar weather channel and then see the days and then see what your own tracking device says about your physiology. I mean, that would be fascinating. I don't have one of those rings, but I'm thinking, that would be a really super cool, just one-on-one experience to see like, am I one of those people that's like more sensitive and gets affected by these things? So, and yes, our skin, Dennis says here, our skin has photoreceptors. Then can exploding light interfere with our sleep? Absolutely. I have a study here for you pulled up, and I'll get to that with the neurological. So cardiovascular pulmonary effects, we have decreased HRV, increased blood viscosity, increased blood pressure, increased risk of heart attacks and heart failure. And I mean, I'll pull up some of these studies here just so you can see them. This is from JACC journal, Solar Danger. Solar flares are associated with higher rates of heart failure, related hospitalizations, and death. And here's another one on blood pressure from JAHA, Journal of American Heart Association. Solar activity is associated with diastolic and systolic blood pressure in elderly adults. These are all really fascinating. And then we have one here on pulmonary function, solar and geomagnetic activity reduces pulmonary function and enhances particulate pollution effects. So these are fascinating. And then we will go on to the neurologic effects. So in terms of neurologic effects, they found to increase seizure, changes in breathing patterns, increase flares of neurological conditions, including multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, schizophrenia. For multiple sclerosis, patients had increased hospitalizations just after storms and also 7 to 8 months later. So it may be tricky to figure out the correlation or association with that because there may be after effects. And sometimes when these storms happen, it's not that day, but maybe afterwards or after the storm goes down. There's also increased rates of depression and mental illness. And I want to pull that up for you here. This is from the British Journal of Psychology. Geomagnetic storms associated with increased incidence of depression is measured by hospital admission. So this is affecting us all around the world. These are global studies, and it's not just limited to certain areas. And of course, if you are in certain areas, you might be more affected. Again, if you're higher up in the atmosphere, flying around, if you're an astronaut, if you're a pilot, or if you travel a lot in the air. There's also increased stress levels and attention issues. These effects seem to be more pronounced at the later stages of the geomagnetic storms and during the recovery stages of the storms. And then somebody was asking about circadian rhythms. So here, it's so tiny here, but it says influence of electromagnetic fields and the circadian rhythms, implications for human health and disease. So absolutely, our bodies are registering the effects regardless of if we're actually consciously aware of it. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more at the end in terms of like higher perspectives and what this might mean from a multidimensional perspective. But we'll go through this last part, the metabolic, immune, and genetic effects. It's been these storms from the sun have been found to be associated with increased premature births, down in other chromosomal abnormalities, cellular nuclear changes, because of the radiation effects, decreased immune responses when they are measuring responses to H. pylori. And, oddly enough, it can have some shifts. So in one study, they found that it actually improved symptoms in patients with lupus. So that's interesting. And I want you to kind of think about that, like that there can be a varied response, because I want to talk about also like how can we use these storms for our benefit, and I'm going to talk about that at the end. But first, I want to talk about how to stabilize your electromagnetic field, because we are electromagnetic beings. And yes, we have those photoreceptors on our skin, in our eyes, and we have so much light going through us. We are really made out of light that's been made really dense. And so we call that matter. It's a matter and energy, light are all interchangeable. So the electromagnetic fields induced by the solar flares. This is from this global study. Induced by the solar flares and other space weather events constitute a form of low-level radiation exposure of both non-ionizing and ionizing types. And so from this one article, they had suggested, it was a review article, and let me see if I have that here. I will get it for you. I want to tell you where it is from. It's from Global Journal of Medical Research in Pharma, Drug Discovery and Toxicology and Medicine. And this was on a review article on biofield energy, health effects of solar flares by Seema Batessa. And this is from 2024. So a recent one. And that's good. And she had recommended mainly deducing like, okay, this is radiation. So what can we do to protect ourselves from this kind of radiation? So think about antioxidants, anything that you can do to improve your health overall. Vitamin C, E, selenium, beta carotene, and acetylcysteine, alpha lipoic acid, making sure that you have enough minerals so that all your organs are functioning properly, calcium, magnesium, copper, iron, manganese, and zinc, making sure you get like these nice greens, that chlorophyll, which helps to reduce oxidative stress, and those cruciferous veggies that have sulforaphane or sulfur veggies that can help to our bodies to clear damaged cells overall. Getting those omega 3s to protect all the cell membranes and to reduce the inflammation in the body. But I also want you to think about things from a vibrational perspective. So, your electromagnetic field, if it gets disturbed, some people, you might be able to pick up on it as this static in your field. It feels like buzzy, like, I mean, when it's really intense, it feels like you stuck your finger in an electric socket. That's literally what people feel like to me. They're just like buzzing. And so, what can help to stay to kind of make that more harmonious? So think about sound. Think about sounds that are harmonious and sound healing. You can just go on your favorite music app and pull up the songs that you like that are really healing for you, or you can look up healing music and play these vibrations or use sound bowls, the sound of the ocean, the sound of rainfall, healing sounds of nature. And you can let that yourself feel that and hear that, and that can move your vibrations in a way that is more harmonious and feels good. You can also do, I've talked a lot about this. You can do cross lateral exercises. So anything that helps cross the midline of the body, the right and left sides, from the simple like butterfly hug and tapping to twisting motions, to these alternate nostril breathing I've talked about before, but let me demo for you it again in case you haven't seen those other episodes. So I like to do this alternate nostril breathing that's described in the Edgar Cayce readings because it's really simple yet profound. And it's about breathing in with a cat stretch. So just like the animals do. So 3 times on one side and then out through the mouth, 3 times on the other nostril and out through the mouth. So like this. So you'll breathe in through the right nostril and then stretch with your arm and out through the mouth. And you can do that with the assistance of holding down your left nostril, breathing in through the right nostril, or you could just tell yourself, breathe through the right nostril relatively, and then out your mouth. So you'll do that 3 times on that side and then the other side. Breathing in through your left nostril and out through the mouth. Do that 3 times on each side, and that helps to reset the autonomic nervous systems, helps get both sides of your brain communicating, integrated, and both sides of the body integrated. If you do that preventively, or for self-maintenance too, 3 times each side, morning and night, at least, or anytime you feel like you need a little extra integration, you will feel the difference. And it can also help to open up your airways. Other exercises that help to integrate your biofield include yoga, especially when you do it in a mindful way with breath work, tai chi, qigong, even a mindful walk in nature where you're breathing into your body and what you notice, and not walking through mindlessly thinking about your to-do list, or just noticing those sights and smells and sounds all around you. Body work, including cranial osteopathy or energy medicine, Reiki, and other types of energy medicine can be helpful. Of course, the energy of the body and that electricity too, but other kinds of energy. Tension and trauma release exercises can also be helpful because they help to reset the autonomic nervous system. And lastly, I wanted to at least mention and touch on a higher perspective, because why do we have these variations in solar weather? What is going on? I don't know if some of you had heard about that meteor 3I Atlas, which was intergalactic, had come out from outside our solar system. Interstellar, 3I. Third, 3 meaning it's the third interstellar meteor that they had ever seen. And it's a ginormous meteor. And then there was talk even from a Harvard professor of, is this does not acting like a meteor, and this could this have intelligence on it from outs beyond our solar system. And so there was a lot of debate on that. And I can't say that it's completely settled yet. And it's something to consider from a bigger perspective, because we are so small, just a speck in the universe, and to consider, what else is going on there. But then to also know that from the sun, the energy from the sun, we live off the energy from the sun. It grow that the plants need the solar energy to grow, and then any animals that eat the plants get that energy from the sun because the plants have transformed it into energy that they could eat and digest. And so there's vitality there. And so then we're at this top of the food chain. So depending on what you eat, we need that energy from the sun. But then when we're getting these intense energy, it's like it can feel overwhelming. And so I was meditating on this, especially when I was feeling a bit off, because I know I can recalibrate. We all can recalibrate to various energies so that we can navigate and flow through various energies, even if they're new, even if they're intense. Just like if you have a stressful event, you can recalibrate so that you can navigate that stressful event with more ease and don't have to stay in this state of overwhelm. So with solar storms, I was thinking, I was like, okay, there's a way to navigate this intense energy coming from the sun. And the sun is really meant to be nourishing and feeding and supportive for us. So how can I flip this and look at it, not instead of like, oh my gosh, it's disrupting everything, like all those studies are saying that it's affecting us in a more negative way. How can we use this in a positive way? And so I thought, if the sun is that high energy and I'm this, at my energy is here, and the reason I'm getting affected by that is because it's so much higher, then a way to be able to flow through those changes is to shift my energy, to shift my vibration to a higher level. And when that idea dawned on me, it just clicked, and it's like it kind of like got me out of this like momentary funk of like, why am I feeling this way? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm being challenged, and really the whole earth is being challenged and asked to raise the vibration, because there's a lot of low vibration stuff going on right now. And this sun, as a if you think of it kind of as this living being that is giving us energy and nourishing us and wanting to redirect us, is kind of like sending little signals, flares to us, and kind of encouraging us on the way, and like, come on, guys, wake up. Not just guys and girls and everyone, all beings, like, wake up, raise your vibration, be loving and kind to each other, recognize the light that you are, and live that every single day, every moment. If you forget, it's okay. The sun will remind you. You'll wake up and watch as many sunrises and sunsets as you can. So, for that question with circadian rhythms, because that will help to calibrate you to the sun's energy that is giving us that life. And we are a divine spark, and we have that light within us too. So if we can calibrate to that that that's already within us, and that the sun is reminding us, then we can flow through these changes, and we can be the change we want to see in the world, to use that phrase. um, I hope that means something to you, because there's a lot going on in the world right now, and we could use more light, and the sun is literally sending us more light, maybe in ways it's like feels too fiery, but we can transform that fire into this loving light and spread it more throughout the world. So that's my episode for today on solar flares and health and beyond. And please see what it means for you. Sit on it, reflect on it, meditate on it. Do your little experiments for yourself. Collect your own data. If you got one of those devices, then check the solar weather, the and space weather and solar weather, and see if there's anything that correlates for you. If you are not as sensitive and not picking up on it, that's okay. It still has a physical effect, and the meaning, the deeper meaning behind these solar flares is for everybody. So lots of love to all of you. I believe in you, and I hope that you believe in you too. And I hope to be back here on another Wednesday for another episode of the Multidimensional MD. If you'd like to connect with me in other ways, you can on Instagram at All Worlds Health, Facebook, All Worlds Health and Pediatrics, and you can sign up for my e-love letters. I send them out periodically on Wednesdays, and you can sign up at allworldshealth.com. Lots of love to you. I'll see you next time. Bye.